All right. I'm here with UFC bantamweight Jack Shore, who's fighting Hunter Azure on April 10th on ABC. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Very good, thanks. Training camp starting to wind down a little bit, ready for obviously the journey over. But yeah, I'm feeling good.
What are you working on today?
Today is it's a light day as far as sort of impact on the body goes. It was just a run this morning. I've got a strength conditioning session now this afternoon, and a pad work session tonight. So I had a tougher day on a Monday and a Thursday, then sort of Tuesday and Wednesday is not so heavy on the body, and then Friday we spar again. So it's not an easy day, but it's a little bit more forgiving on the body than some of the sparring days.
Gotcha. And overall, has training camp gone great?
Yeah, it's been really good. We're obviously still in a lockdown in Wales, but we've managed to create a bubble. Me and a couple of the pro guys. So if anything, the training's been a lot more sort of catered to me and the guys who've got their fights coming up, because obviously there's no sort of, the gym's not open, there's no classes that the coaches have got to focus on. You know, their full focus has been on the fight and the camp that goes with it. So it's been a real specific one. Obviously, I'd love the gym to be open, don't get me wrong, but as far as a fight camp point of view goes, you know, it's been very, very focused on us and us getting those wins. So just looking forward to getting out there and putting the hard work to use.
Awesome. How does it feel, knock on wood, to have a full training camp with the same opponent since all that since last year was such a fucking nightmare?
Yeah, knocking on wood on this table by you, but yeah, it feels good. I mean, you know, we're close to the fight now, so fingers crossed, no complications. But I mean, as far as my end goes, you know, my visa's sorted, my medicals are sorted, so you know, there should be no real difficulty at this point. I hope anyway. You know, it's never say never, but like you said, last year was a bit of a crazy one. Even the show I did fight on, I think I had like 5 opponent changes. So, you know, as long as it doesn't go down that route again, I'll be happy. But I think they could put me in there with Godzilla, and I'd be fighting on April the 10th. I'm 100% going to be in there myself.
Right. Speaking of Godzilla, are you Team King Kong or Team Godzilla?
Team Godzilla. Gotta be Team Godzilla. I remember growing up as a kid when the Godzilla film came out, the one where he's running riot in New York City, I think it is. And I always remember that was one of my favorite films as a kid. So I got to stick by the monster you grew up with, and that's Godzilla.
Understandable. Before we talk about your fight, where did your nickname Tank come from?
It's a funny one because it's very similar to what most people would think. As a youngster, you know, I was always in the MMA gym, and I was carrying a little bit of a belly on me at the time. And I remember I would have been about probably 9 or 10 years old, and I had a little spar, like a little with the boxing gloves on as a kid with one of the one of my father's training partners, Simon. And you know, I went at him like a lunatic by all accounts, and he said to my dad, he's like a young Tank Abbott, he said. So he started calling me Tank, and my dad started calling me Tank, and everyone in the gym started calling me Tank. Then before I knew it, you know, all my friends started calling me Tank. And so it's more than just a fight name, to be honest. It generally is my nickname. I mean, if you sort of knew the people around me and the people that 90% of people in my hometown probably call me Tank, not Jack. So it's a name I'm stuck with for life now. So it's only right that I honor it and keep it as my fight name.
Makes sense. Also, you started a YouTube channel a couple months ago, and then also, do you have a podcast, Tidy Butt podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast is me and a friend of mine. He actually runs a charity called Tidy Butt, and it's a mental health charity. He started this out back about a year ago now, back when the UK first went into lockdown. You know, there was a lot of people like struggling online, struggling mentally, and it just started off as like a Facebook group where, you know, he started a group and people could join and discuss their problems or ask for any advice. You know, he was putting sort of little messages and little sort of pictures that would maybe help people along during the lockdown, and it just took off from there. you know, he's done like sponsored walks, sponsored runs, and you know, he came to me a couple of weeks ago, Matthew, and said, how do you feel about starting a podcast? You've got plenty of practice. So yeah, you know, we've done 2 episodes now. It's starting to take off a little bit. Obviously, it'll slow up a bit now because I'm away for 2 weeks. But it's nice to actually like maybe run the podcast rather than be the guest on a podcast for a change. So we're enjoying it so far. I mean, it's still early days. Still got a lot to work on. But you know, as long as people want to listen and want to hear us babble on, then we'll keep producing the content.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And your YouTube channel is one of the best out there when it comes to just showing what a fighter goes through, training and stuff. So, and I really enjoy it. And what made you come up with that idea just to start a channel?
It was actually my sister and my girlfriend. I came home from training one night, and they were both in the house watching a fitness instructor or something like that on YouTube. And you know, they were just like, you should start a YouTube channel. And you got quite a following online, and people are always sort of asking me for training advice, diet advice, stuff like that. So I said, yeah. I said to my sister, you know, as long as you're prepared to, because I'm not very good with all the editing and all that. So I said, as long as you're prepared to pick up the heavy work on the editing and the production, then, you know, we'll give it a go. And you know, people seem to be enjoying it so far. Try and get a variety on this, so it's not the same mundane stuff you see all the time. You know, we did the hot chip challenge, me and my father, and it didn't end too well for him. But hopefully now, obviously with fight week and stuff coming up and traveling to Vegas, there'll be plenty of content I can film and get out there. And then obviously when I come back, there's plenty of stuff we can do as far as training, reviewing the fight, stuff like that. So if anyone does want to subscribe, it's Jack Tang Show on YouTube. You know, very early days, you know, bear with it. It's me and my sister doing all the filming and editing ourselves, but we've done all right so far. So it's going well. It's going well.
Yeah, no, it is. I thoroughly enjoy it. So for a minute there was a bunch of Welsh fighters coming into the UFC, and then most recently like Mason Jones and Corey McKenna. I mean, how is it gonna feel to be the face of Welsh MMA?
I mean, it's one of them. I mean, it does feel, it obviously comes with added pressure and stuff like that, but I'm very thankful for the fact that I've got quite a tough mindset, and I'm quite mentally strong in the sense of I'm in my own little world. You know, I don't let the opinions and the outside factors affect me too much. So, you know, if people want to see me as the face of Welsh MMA or one of the front runners, obviously it's just a great honor for me to sort of carry that on my shoulders. And you know, there was guys like Jack Marshman and John Phillips that laid and Brett Johns that laid the path for me to follow. So if I can continue sort of laying them foundations and leading the way and showing some of the youngsters in the sport, you know, out there, maybe conduct themselves, you know, how to go about their career in the sense of, you know, how I did it, working my way up from Cage Warriors to winning the title to moving on. If I can lay some sort of path out that way, you know, very much like Mason and Corey, they've sort of gone. I know Corey did the Contenders, but Mason especially sort of, you know, went on the same route as me and winning the Cage Warriors belts and moving on. If I can help the younger generation out, it'll be great. And, you know, if I'm considered the face maybe of Welsh MMA, I've always had it as one of my goals to be recognised as one of the best Welsh fighters to ever step foot in the cage, you know. So fingers crossed I continue on the route I'm on, and then people can start, you know, putting that one out there as well. As well as me being the current face of MMA, I'd like to still be, you know, very active on the Welsh scene for years to come, you know, right up until even when I sort of stop fighting, I still want to be heavily involved in the Welsh team, you know, the IMAF team. My father just started the Welsh Fight League promotion now, which is going to sort of run a bit like the IMMAF format for the Welsh guys. So yeah, it's exciting times, and it's just a pleasure to be a part of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about your fight. So is your fight with Hunter going to be the first time you fought in the United States?
Yeah, first time.
Are you kind of excited to be in Vegas? I mean, it is going to be with no crowd, but I mean, whatever. It's still Vegas, right?
Yeah, man. Like I've said it before. I mean, it would be great to have like friends and family come along, but a fight in Vegas is still a fight in Vegas. You know, I'm out there nice and early, so I get to make use of the PI and stuff like that for the first time. It's on ABC, which, you know, to the UK fans doesn't mean a lot, but I know it's a big deal over in America. So hopefully, you know, it'll get plenty of new eyes on me and on my performance. And, you know, if I put in a good shift and get a good win, then, you know, hopefully it'll open some doors and help sort of progress me further along.
Have they told you you're going to be on the main card yet?
I haven't heard. As far as like the I think online I'm on the prelims, but I know things do change. You know, when you get there fight week, you sort of know officially where you sit on the card. But it's a very stacked card, to be fair. You know, the main event, and Mike Perry's on the card. The Mackenzie Dern's on the card, I believe, as well. So it's a really stacked card. So I'll be happy to slot in everywhere. You know, as much as I'd love to fight on the main card, I also think sometimes, you know, it's nice to get on it nice and early, get up the way and enjoy the rest of the card as a fan. But obviously, I haven't got many days left being on early in the card, I don't imagine. So I'm just making the most at the minute of being on the prelims and being on nice and early.
Yeah, soon it's going to be every main card from here on out. What do you think about the matchup?
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I mean, I remember watching Hunter fight back on the Contender Series, and just a name. Even at the time, I was training for my last fight on Cage Warriors, and I remember thinking I wouldn't be surprised if me and him sort of cross paths down the line. And you know, I've remember watching his last win, and I can also remember obviously his loss to Kelleher as well. And obviously that was before I'd seen those fights before even getting a match with him, so I definitely knew who he was when they come to us with our name. He's very good everywhere. You know, he's got that wrestling pedigree. He's got punching power. His striking is wild. You know, he's maybe not be the most technical striker in the world, but sometimes that they can be more dangerous to deal with. So he's very good everywhere. But I think style-wise, it matches up very nicely for me. My coaches have had a good look at him. I've had a good look at him, and we're confident. You know, we can take the fight wherever we got to take it, and you know, get our win by any means.
Yeah. So I mean, you've only been to the Georgia judges you've only been to the scorecards one time. I mean, you're a finisher. Is that what you're planning on doing?
Yeah, without a doubt. Every time I go out there, I'm looking to finish. You know, although I've got this grinding style, I'm not sort of happy and content to do that for 3 rounds. If a finish is on the table and sort of presents itself, you know, as we've seen, I'll snatch it as fast as I can. But you know, one of my biggest weapons is my cardio and sort of the pace I can put on. So we're more than confident as a team that I can, you know, grind for 3 rounds if I go. You know, Hunter being a very good wrestler, I don't think it's not going to be that type of fight, you know, where you see one person just grinding the other person out from top position. You know, being a good wrestler, and obviously myself being a decent wrestler, I think that we may neutralize each other in that area. So it's an exciting one for sure. I don't really know what way it's going to go. It's either going to be a wrestling match, or it's going to be 2 wrestlers who don't really want to wrestle and turns it into a striking match. You know, we'll see on the night. But I'm coming for the finish, definitely. Always looking for the finish.
Yeah, you've had a couple round 3 finishes, and I mean, your pace is relentless, and you just keep coming and keep coming. Do you think that's just your opponent eventually breaks and that's it?
Yeah, I think, like, as my career has gone on, to start off, I think when I was like 5-0, I was 5-0 with like 4 first-round finishes or something like that. So I was sort of known as a fast starter, and then there was, like, at the time, questions of, you know, can he keep that pace up for 3 rounds or 5 rounds even? And obviously, as my last couple of fights have gone, I've shown that I'm just as, you know, I'm just as active and just as dangerous late on in the fight than I am early in the fight. You know, I finished, I know it was a second round finish last time, and then I had 3 third round finishes before that. And like you said, you can see that my pace, you know, doesn't tend to drop as the fight goes on. Although I'm very efficient with the way I manage my energy, you know, I'm very confident that if I've got to go like a lunatic for 3 rounds, and I can do that as well. So I think you're exactly right. People, they just tend to break. I think not everyone has got that gas tank and that sort of level of energy where they can hold the pace that I'm pushing for, you know, 15 minutes. And the way I sort of grapple and fight is, you know, the stuff I'm doing doesn't require as much energy from me to attack, but it requires a lot of energy to defend. So I think that's why guys tend to falter late on. You know, they can withstand it and survive for a round or two, but then, you know, come the end of the second and the third round, that's when the panic starts to kick in, I think.
For sure. Give me a prediction for April 10th.
Prediction again, I think it's going to be very similar to my last few fights. You know, it's going to be very close early on. He's not going to go away easy. He's got that wrestling mentality. You know, he's been in there with some good guys. He's got some great training partners. So he's not gonna be a guy that you can just expect to go in there and you know, whitewash straight away. But I do see me getting the finish. And you know, I'm very confident going in this fight in my striking. I've had some really good stand-up rounds. I've had some good boxing rounds down at my boxing gym down at Gary Lockett's with extremely good level pro boxers down there, and you know, I'm starting to click it together now very well. So you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see a finish on the feet, but don't doubt the Welsh wrestling. I said this to the UFC yesterday in an interview. Don't doubt the power of the Welsh wrestling. As good as his wrestling is, you know, don't be surprised to see me pinch a takedown and do damage from top position as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because there's this, I guess, this thought out there that the wrestling in the UK is not non-existent. But then, I mean, you look at you, and dude, your wrestling is fantastic.
Yeah, it's something I pride myself on. You know, for years as a kid coming up in the sport, like 18, 19, I used to think myself, you know, to compete with these American guys and these Russian guys in wrestling, maybe we need to go away to train. But as the years have gone on, the game has developed, the coaches have developed. Like you said, people like myself, Brett Johns even is another good example. Leon Edwards, you know, his wrestling is extremely good. Even people like Darren Till, although Darren Till is not known for his takedowns, his takedown defense is very, very good. You know, for a guy who's such a good striker, you would expect, you know, maybe that area to be a bit of weakness, but his takedown defense is spot on. So I just think that stigma is starting to disappear. Arnold Allen's another one. You know, look how many guys Arnold Allen has out wrestled. So I think that stigma is starting to go away a little bit now. And like you said, I'm happy that you know, people can look at me and look at my all-round game and rate my wrestling, even though I'm coming up against these American and, you know, in the future potentially Russian guys that you know, is not an issue for me now. If I fight a good wrestler, I don't think, you know, what am I going to do to avoid being grinded on for free run? I'm in a position where I can embrace that and you know, try and grind them a little bit as well. So it's exciting times for the Welsh. And again, my wrestling is like an MMA style of wrestling. It may not have the accolades that you would get, like, you know, like Commonwealth and Olympic, and obviously we don't have the, you know, Division 1 and stuff like that over here. So I may not have the accolades, but I'm more than confident I can compete with those top level guys in that area.
Yeah, no, for sure. Just a couple more things. How many times do you want to fight in 2021?
At least 3 times. I mean, this fight obviously is in April now. I'd love to get a quick turnaround and aim for sort of June, July time, providing I come out, you know, injury free and stuff like that. There's a lot of factors I know that the factor into it, but in an ideal world, 3 times would be perfect. Depending on how quick the first 3 go, maybe even a 4th, but at least 3. I had a slow year last year, so right to make up for lost time.
For sure. And we've talked, and I mean, I think you're this fight and maybe one more, or if you come out and just have a super dominant performance, I think your name is right for thinking for the top 15. I think you're right there. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think, yeah, spot on. Like if I come out now and really put on a show and really make people take notice, I think, you know, the next fight may even see us getting with a guy who's ranked. But like you said, even just your standard win and do what I got to do to win, I don't think I'm far away. By the end of the year, I'd like to think, you know, for my last fight of the year, I'll either be ranked or I'll be fighting for a spot. You know, it's not too far in the distance now. I think a good. I just want to remind people with this fight. You know, like I haven't fought since July. Back in July, there was a lot of buzz around my name after such a good performance, and that got halted a little bit because of, you know, the fight in November being cancelled. But now is the time to remind people what I'm all about and sort of, like you said, get my name out into the sense where people are saying, look, this kid deserves a shot at someone who's ranked.
For sure. And then, I mean, we MMA media calls you a prospect, but you've been fighting since you're well amateur since 2012, and probably before
Yeah.
that. I mean, so like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not like, super young in this game. So does that, I guess, that prospect name kind of get to you, or no, not really?
No, not really. I mean, I see the name as a prospect as a good thing. You get guys in the top 10 who are seen as prospects. You know, I think as long as you've got momentum behind you and you know, people are talking about you, you'll always be seen as a prospect until, you know, you're a champion or sort of fighting for the belt. And I've seen someone called Corey Sandhagen a prospect the other day. And it's like the guy's number 3 or 2 in the world. So I think I'll always be called a prospect for, you know, as long as I'm still young and I'm still climbing that ladder. I think people will still see me as a prospect. But, you know, in my mind, I know I'm capable of competing with those best guys. So, you know, whatever people will say, it's I don't sort of let that affect me too much or, you know, piss me off or sort of build me up. I just take it in my stride, continue to move forward and just concentrate on the task at hand.
And then finally, there are some other Europeans on your fight card. Give me some predictions on Darren Till versus Marvin Vettori and Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Youssef.
Yeah, obviously I'm sticking with the UK guys, and that's not just bias. That's genuine, you know, thinking about. I believe I think Vittori's very good, and you've seen that in his last fight how good he is. Jack Manson's no slouch, you know what I mean. But I just think Darren Till is that elite level. You know, he's like the top 1% of guys who is. I know he hasn't won a title yet, but he has a good performance here, and I think he will be in the conversation for fighting for the middleweight belt next. And I just love watching him fight Darren, his style and his striking, the way he set things up, his feints, his angles. It's just like when you're a student of the game and a real fan of the game like me, it's incredible to watch his stand. I honestly believe his stand up as far as technicality goes is on a level with someone like Stylebender, which is why I'm rooting for him to win this fight, because I want to see them two fight and see a bit, you know, see this awesome striking match. And same with Arnold Allen. I think, you know, his progress got slowed a little bit last year as well. I think he's 7-0 in the UFC now, and he's, you know, people are starting to take notice of who he is. And Sadiq Youssef, is it? Sadiq Youssef he's fighting, isn't he? Yeah, he's, you know, he's a top level guy. He's got a lot of hype behind him. And as good as he is, I think Arnold is just going to be that little bit too well-rounded for him. And I think if he can obviously pull off a big win here, then that pushes him forward for a real big name next. So let's hope we can get the clean sweep for the UK on this one.
That's right. That's right. I lied. I got one more. The bantamweight division. It's I mean, it is the best division in the UFC. It's I mean, I guess there's bantamweight, lightweight. It's, you know,
yeah,
it's just stacked from top to bottom. People outside the top 15 like yourself, it's just ridiculously stacked. I mean, what are your thoughts on the bantamweight division? And then, you know, we just had that crazy outcome with Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan. You know, what are your just kind of your thoughts on everything?
yeah, like you said, it's full of killers. Like, I mean, you got the top 15. There's probably another 10 or 15 guys outside of that. Like you could think, right, he's got to be close to getting a ranking, you know. So it's a fun time to be a part of the division, and you know, it's not like I'm thinking in my head now. There's no easy fights there for me now for the next like 5 to 10 years. So it's one of them. You know, you either sort of panic at the thought of that, or you just embrace it and think, well, you know, if I can compete in this division and you know, solidify myself as one of the top guys, I think in sort of 10, 15 years time, when people look back, like, you know, like they do now when they look back at like the boxing, like the super middleweights, like, you know, your Marvin Aglers, your Sugar Ray Leonards, your Thomas Hearns, that sort of division in that era is seen as like, that was seen as a division sort of golden era where you had all these killers all fighting each other, all in the mix. And I think in like 10, 15 years time, when people look back on the bantamweight division currently, they'll say, you know, that was the 5-year period with that division was just, you had the best guys constantly fighting each other and constantly, you know, you didn't know who was going to be the next top dog. And, you know, I think that's how it's going to go. I don't think any champion will reign for too long a time at the minute. There's so many killers inside the top 15 and outside the top 15 coming through as well. So it's definitely exciting to be part of it. I mean, I picked the right time to come and get in the mix. But and that Aljamain and Peter Yan thing, I mean, it was just a tricky one. I mean, like, you can see it from both ends. Like, you wouldn't want to be called the champion of winning it by a DQ, but at the same time, you know, you can't bring in a rule that you can't win the bout by DQ, because then a champion could be 4 rounds down and just get himself disqualified in the 5th round. So ultimately, you know, I don't think Aljamain was faking it or playing up to the, you know, just to get the win. But you know, at the same time, I can see Jan's frustration at obviously the pictures with the belt and stuff like that. But look, hopefully they just run it back as soon as possible, and then they can put the previous one to bed. There was a lot left unanswered, I think, in our first fight. Aljamain started very strong, but he was evidently like fading, and you could see Jan was coming on very strong towards the end. It looked like he was gonna end up putting him away. So it'll be interesting to see him run it back, see how they adjust, and see who comes out on top.
So thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate it. If you have any sponsors, and if you want to plug your social media, go right ahead.
Yeah, obviously, my social media is Jack Show MMA on Instagram and Twitter. I've got a Jack Tank Show page on Facebook. I'm taking a little hiatus for the next week or two just to focus on getting everything ready for my trip. But all my sponsors are on there, you know, my sponsored banner and stuff like that. I want to shout them out individually because I'll forget someone and they'll be upset, I'm sure. Obviously, on my YouTube page as well, I know we mentioned it, Jack Tank Show on YouTube. Plenty of content coming up now with Fight Week approaching. And obviously just shout out to my teammates for this camp. You know, Josh Reed, Scott Pedersen, Brett Johns, my coaches, Richard Shaw, Carl Parker, Gary Lockett, Crew Heem, Greg Carlo, and obviously my family, my girlfriend, my mother, my sister, my friends are putting up for the fact they haven't seen me for the last 9 weeks. Just everyone. So they all know who they are. They all know I thoroughly thank them, and obviously all my supporters online that I may not know on a personal scale, but who are behind me always. So hopefully we can get this one done. No complications now, and we can get out there and get the job done.
I'm knocking on wood that everything goes smooth, because last year was crazy. It was
a frustrating time to be a Jack Shaw fan last year. Put it that way.
100%. But thank you for the time, and good luck.
Thank you, brother. I'll see you soon.